Good afternoon. Sorry, Facebook gave us a little bit of issues, but we're good now. Before we start, I just want to give a special thanks to Shelley Berkeley, who is one of our sponsors. She's running for Las Vegas mayor. Also, another one of our sponsors is Carrie Maxey. She's running for Family Court Department N. And Monica Larson is another one of our sponsors, and she's running for Henderson City Council Ward 2. Before we get started, there's a couple things I want to get out of the way. Number one, Armed Forces Chamber PAC will not be participating in this panel interview. This will just be Nevada Veterans Association and Veterans in Politics International. Also, just as a disclosure, this is the first time that we have been doing this process, and we've been doing it for 17 years now, that we had to not invite a candidate for this race due to the last time he appeared in front of us. He broke many rules that I set forth before the process even begins. And so he wasn't invited, and that's the reason why. He also tried to file a lawsuit against Steve Sanson, president of Veterans of Politics. So we chose not to invite James Dean Leavitt to this process, but we want to thank the other 4 candidates that we did invite for showing up. With that being said, let's go through the rules. Each candidate will be given 45 seconds for an introduction. Please state your name, also why you're running for this specific seat, and also why you are seeking our endorsements. You'll be given 45 seconds to introduce yourself, like I said, and then we'll ask you questions. Remember, this isn't a debate, so you can't talk back and forth amongst each other. When asked a question, you need to address the panel members only. You'll be given 1 minute to do that. Just time-wise, if you have 15 seconds left, you get the yellow, and if your time is up, you'll get red. I won't be rude and interrupt you in the middle of a sentence, but once you see the red, if you can please wrap up as soon as possible. So we'll go ahead, and I'm really excited for this because this is Justice of the Peace, Department 4, and for those of you that aren't aware of what Justice of the Peaces do, they are referred to as the People's Court. So with that being said, Holly, would you like to introduce yourself and why you're running, why you're seeking our endorsement? And let's go this way, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Holly Stoberski, and I am seeking the endorsement from your group for many reasons. One, I believe that the endorsement that's offered by the Veterans Group carries with it and embodies the traits and qualities that I think every citizen in our community should follow, which is sense of community, sharing, and also being able to provide services to those who need it most. I have practiced in Las Vegas for over 25 years, and I've also lived here. And I started my practice as a civil litigator. However, for the past 12 years, I have presided as a Justice of the Peace pro tem and presided over thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cases, not only in criminal court, but also civil court, as well as specialty court, including Veterans Court. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Smith-Peterson. I am a Chief Deputy Public Defender at the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I have worked with many of our indigent community members, but I've also worked with those who are part of the veteran community. I have made sure that I saw them as the individuals that they were. I made sure that I advocated for their rights, for their humanity, for their right to be seen as people who may or may not have committed a crime. The reason why I'm here and I'm seeking your endorsement is because I would like to further assist and expand the Justice Court Veterans Court that is currently being womaned by Justice Harmony Letitia. Again, I've seen many of our veterans go through our criminal justice system, and I want to continue the work as an advocate, but on the bench. Thank you.
My name is Suzan Baucum, and I am a candidate for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 4. I have 32 years of legal experience, all dedicated to this community. For nearly 20 years, I was the director of a nonprofit organization providing legal services for abused children, women, victims, veterans, and seniors. I served as a judge in Las Vegas Justice Court previously for 12 years, and I sat on all aspects of the court. It was not uncommon daily to refer someone to the Veterans Treatment Court. The Veterans Court program at Las Vegas Justice Court is a magnificent program. Judge Letitia does a great job. It's important to identify services that veterans need. It's not a one-size-fits-all or a one-type-fits-all. Some need to be identified with substance issues, mental health issues, and it's very important in our community to have that. I have previously been endorsed by Veterans in Politics, the Armed Forces Chamber, and Nevada Veterans Association. I would appreciate your endorsement again. Suzan Baucum, Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 4. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Hilary Heap. Probably like some people in this room, I didn't grow up here, but I chose Las Vegas as my home and the place I was going to raise my children about 20 years ago. When I initially got to town, I started working on the Strip. I went to UNLV for both my undergraduate and my law degree. Throughout that time, I focused on helping some of the youngest members of our community, victims who were actually already in the community, in the criminal justice system as victims. After law school, I wanted to continue helping victims and serve our community, and I joined the Clark County District Attorney's Office. I've been there for 13 years. I'm a Chief Deputy District Attorney. I've had many different roles there. My current assignment is as Team Chief of General Litigation Track 2. I handle 3 justice courts and 5 separate district courts. So I am in justice court every single day serving our community, and that includes the veterans that come in not only as victims, but as witnesses and as defendants, as well as, I work with the veterans. A lot of our law enforcement officers are veterans. I have veterans in my family as well. And I'm seeking your endorsement because I believe community safety and community service is extremely important, and your members serve our community in the most serious way. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with the first question. James Jonas, Director of Veterans in Politics International, and I'm also a member of the Nevada Veterans Association. My first question, I'm going to go ahead and just give this to all of you. And after I ask my question, Hilary, you'll start and work this way. You'll have 45 seconds in which to answer it. So here's some statistics that are kind of alarming, and I'm sure all 4 of you are aware of them, but I'd like to know, if elected, how will you continue even on the bench, or even if you're not elected, to be engaged with the community to try to get people to understand how important it is to actually vote for judges? Because in non-presidential election cycles in Clark County, it's about 2.5% of residents that actually vote for judges. And in presidential cycles, it's 4.25%. So it's a little better, but that's still astoundingly bad considering it is state law that we elect our judges. I'll start with you, Hilary, and if we work this way, 45 seconds.
Thank you. If elected, I will be involved in community programs. I think outreach is extremely important, and the best thing to do is get people knowledge. We can do that by the judiciary going out to talk to the public, whether it be at different events. We also have programs that bring students into the courtroom. As a Chief Deputy DA, I always interact with those children along with the judges in the courtroom to give them the knowledge about what our system is and why it's so important. Additionally, outside of my work, I go and I talk to community groups about our court system. I talk at schools about our court system because we do need to get people involved and ready to vote, because justice of the peace, these justice courts, are the place that's going to affect more members of our community than any other court. This is the people's court.
Thank you for the question. So I was born and raised in this community, and my father taught us at an early age that you only get out of a community what you put into it. And he was in the Army during the Second World War, so a very long time ago. But having been born and raised here, I have given back to this community for over 5 decades. And not only as a previous judge, but as an attorney, providing legal services for abused women and children. Community services are the most important thing you can do in the outreach. I continue to speak to students of all ages, grade school, middle school, high school, and a lot of outreach to the university and our college athletes, letting them know about judges, about the judicial system, because you want to be well informed. You don't want to be in the judicial system for the first time because you've been arrested for a crime. You want to know about it beforehand. If we can stop it before it happens, that's the best thing to do, and that's what I try to do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I can tell you what I do now. So I am not on the bench. I have not been on the bench, but I am seeking the bench. One of the things that I do every election cycle is that I go through the ballot for our particular neighborhood, and I talk to the people at the grocery store. I live by a Smith's and Albertsons as well as a Trader Joe's, and we talk about judicial elections. We talk about how important it is, because while I have friends in the legal community, I also and within the community, for people who don't know who's on the bench, people who don't know who the judge will be on the ballot. If I am elected, one of the things that I want to encourage is that judges should be accessible, just like we are at our grocery stores, so we can talk about, what are the issues that are coming up. Because Justice of the Peace is the people's court, we are going to interact with people for things as small as misdemeanor assaults or felony charges for a preliminary hearing. So for me, it is about expanding my connection with the people in everyday facets of life.
Thank you for that question. I believe that what is most significant from my perspective is that collaboration brings power. Over the past several years, where I've had the opportunity to follow and sit with and cover Veterans Court in Las Vegas Justice Court, I have been able to see the direct results of what lack of access to what is out there for veterans to use is a direct correlation with whether or not they're going to remain in the system or get out of the system. There are services that are available, but they're not accessible. And that one thing that Veterans Court does is to make sure that there is a connection that can bring stability and resources to the members that are before the court. So again, collaboration with outside agencies that will make available what services they can offer to the veterans will be a key focus of my campaign.
Frank Friends, Veterans of Politics, Family Court Observer. So you see a lot of judges from the bench and a lot of society right now talking about DEI and the skin color of somebody or their sex actually contributing to their criminal activity, when none of that's actually true. Statistically, the greatest predictor if somebody's going to become a criminal is if they're raised by a single mother. 70% of all criminals are raised by single mothers. 80% of all teenage pregnancies, single mothers. 90% of all teenage suicides, single mothers. So it doesn't have anything to do with skin color or sex. But you're going to have cases that come to you that are hardship cases, things like that. Are you going to let the race, religion, or sex orientation affect your judgment on what a case should be and what the sentencing is? And will you legislate from the bench, or will you do what's right?
I'll be happy to take that question. I think it's a very important question. It would be naive to say that the factors that you have identified do not come into play. They do come into play. But from my perspective, what you don't want are activist judges. You want someone who's actually listening to the facts that are before it and following the law. That doesn't mean that the judge does not have discretion to do what it needs to do to make a hard decision, even if it's not a popular decision. But having said that, I do believe it is important for all of us to keep in mind the factors that may come into play when making a decision and exercising your discretion when it's appropriate to make sure that justice is done.
Thank you for that question. So I know that if I am elected to the bench, one of the biggest reasons why I'm running is because I want to ensure that the rulings that are made are both fair as well as just. I'm an individual who has experienced various instances in my life, both for my race as well as for my gender, as well as for another factor. So I know personally what it is like to be judged by that versus being judged by what's in front of you. And I think it's very important for a justice of the peace to, again, understand that there are several factors that an individual might have that might bring them forward to you in their court, but that doesn't mean that what your duty is, which is to ensure that there is fair as well as swift justice, is handed down.
So I believe that no matter what your race, religion, color of your skin, whatever it is a factor. That being said, the law needs to be applied fairly and consistently across all aspects of the court and the community. A judge is a neutral fact finder. Neutral being they don't favor one side over the other. They need to look at the charge, they need to listen to the facts, apply the law, and issue an equitable decision that at all areas follows the law. Thank you.
Thank you. The role of the judiciary is to be impartial and to be fair. It's to apply the facts of the instant case. In every case, the facts are completely different. To apply those facts to the laws that our society has decided should govern us, right? It is our job to interpret the laws of the legislature. You know, judges don't make the laws. We're given the laws, and we are required to apply those laws to the facts of the case. Everybody in our community has implicit biases. It's our duty to check those, but in the role of the judiciary, it's to apply the facts to the case and to the law. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Lucian with Veterans in Politics, and keep this simple. This is for all of you. What inspired you to become a judge?
Thank you. I have always had a heart for community service. I've been a district attorney and a chief district attorney for 13 years. I've given my entire legal career as well as my education to community service, and I am in justice court every single day. I see what positive impact our judges can have on our community, and especially when that job is done with the respect that it deserves. I want to be able to continue serving our community in that way that allows me to have a bigger impact on our community. As a district attorney, I have a very specific role in the criminal justice system, and what I would be able to do as a judge would be to expand the service to the rest of the community and not just the specific role that I have as a deputy district attorney.
Previously, I said that I have given my entire legal career to this community. So for 32 years, I've provided access to justice for individuals across all aspects of life. I love justice court. Justice court is the people's court, as we've heard here a couple of times today. But I am passionate about our community. I am passionate about justice court. I have never sought a higher judicial office because for me, justice court is still the place where you can turn somebody around. You can identify with them with services. You can get them into an alternative dispute resolution program. You can make a difference, turn them around, help them to be safe, productive members of our community each and every day. The first time somebody comes into justice court for a traffic ticket or a misdemeanor crime or whatever it is, they're scared to death. So you have to listen, you have to learn, and making somebody understand the law and the reasons why they're there and applying that equitably and fairly is what justice is all about.
So the reason why I want to be a judge specifically for Department 4 is that in my role as the public defender, I am an advocate. So I advocate for the lives of others, whether it be for bail, whether it's for, getting a charge or a count dismissed. But at the core of it is that I'm arguing for someone's humanity. And I feel like a communicator to the judge. I feel like I'm the one that has to explain someone's lived experience, someone's ability or inability to pay. And I've often been hit against some sort of resistance in my experience sometimes with trying to convey that person's humanity, whether they're charged with something, small or something very serious. But at the core of it is that they are people and they deserve respect. I want to be on the bench because I believe that I have that core understanding that we are dealing with people who are not the most of their worst lived experience. And I think that if I'm able to be on the bench, I'd be able to do that.
The reason that I want to serve as a Justice of the Peace in Department 4 are very integral to who I am as a person. One of my favorite sayings from Abraham Lincoln is that public service is the price that you pay for the rent that you use up and the space that you take on this earth. being a member of this community and providing services to those who need it and ensuring the safety of the community is paramount to me. And I believe that my years of experience as a Justice of the Peace pro tem has provided me with the balanced perspective of being able to not only apply the law, but also to take into consideration the individualized facts that go into making a determination as to what is just and fair. Thank you.
James Jonas, Director of Veterans and Politics, member of Nevada Veterans Association. Okay, so it is state law that judges are elected. I'll talk about it on the talk show, not here. I don't agree with that. Anyway, just so you guys know. But running for the bench, you're going to have to follow the law, so the law is the law. But the thing is that one of the difficulties here is that the legislature writes the laws in which you guys have to abide by from the bench. Okay. And the people who vote for these legislatures, I'm included in this, are not attorneys. So sometimes some of the people that are elected in our legislature, while I respect their service, are not attorneys. And they're the ones that are writing the laws that you guys have to follow. So if elected, while still following the current NRS statutes, how will you reach out, and what's the method in which you can do this to our legislature if you disagree with some of the NRS statutes, or your peers do as well? I'll start with Holly.
Thank you again for that question. I go back to collaboration is power. I fully appreciate the flaws that you're pointing out right now, which is the people that are involved in writing the legislature and coming up with the laws often are not attorneys or people that are in a position to actually be enforcing those laws. So it seems as though if there was a better in-between where we could have more communication between not only the people who are drafting, but also be able to introduce them to the members of the public who are better at integrating and voicing what their concerns are, may get us closer to what we think should be the applicable law in a particular section of whatever it is that's before the court. But it's got to be more collaboration and not just interest groups that are going after particular sections of the law, and that's what they want to preserve. So whether it's representing a landlord and they want to put forth what their interests are versus representing developers, you need to have people that are more familiar and have a better understanding of what the issues are, so the legislation and the rules can be written in a way that will be applied safely and justly to everyone.
Thank you for the question. So we do know that there are three separate powers. There's the legislature, there's the judiciary, there's the executive branch. However, I believe that the people closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. So our role, although neutral, we're able to see what the problems are, but because of this separation, we're not necessarily able to provide that solution. But we are able to provide the people to those individuals who can make those changes. One of the things about Justice Court, again, is that we see everyone. We see some of the smallest cases, some of the largest cases, but we are unable to make those changes within the legislature because we are not a part of the legislature. But I do believe that we have programs, we have institutions that are already built into the Las Vegas Justice Court where we can get, again, those closest to the problem, closest to those who can make changes for the solutions. Thank you.
So judges on the Las Vegas Justice Court, and along with the municipal court judges, belong to an organization called the Nevada Judges of Limited Jurisdiction. They meet monthly if you're on the executive board. Twice a year, there are legal programs for judges that talk about issues before the court, issues that are not being resolved, how to expand the judiciary, how to expand programs for the judiciary. So whenever there's an issue that comes up that needs to go up to the legislature, the Nevada Judges of Limited Jurisdiction get together in their meetings. There is a lobbyist that then takes those issues up to the legislature and advocates on behalf of the judiciary.
Thank you. I might break from the pack a little bit. I don't know that having a legislature full of lawyers would be good for anyone. I deal with lawyers every day, and oftentimes we make things a lot more complicated than members of our community would make them. So I think it's great to have members of our community that are not attorneys up there because they know what our community needs as well. As Judge Baucum did speak, we do have lobbyists for the justice courts and for the different courts, so we can provide information as to whether or not what is happening with our laws that have been enacted. I know we keep stats on a lot of things. Those can be presented to the lobbyists who can then take them to the legislature and let them know how the laws that they've enacted are serving our community or not.
As somebody who loves stats, as you heard from my prior spiel, the most diverse group in America from the ages of 21 to 90 with race, sex, religion, and background, it encompasses everybody, is also the most law-abiding. It's CCW holders. They commit less crimes than off-duty police officers. However, you do have a huge crime problem here in Las Vegas, especially when it comes to guns. Because you have people that get in there and they should be getting a specific sentence, and these judges will take their race, religion, and background into perspective and give them a lesser sentence. And then they get out and they reoffend again. All the way up into the age of 27 by current psychology standards. Recidivism rate usually stops after the age of 27 if they're left in there to complete the sentence instead of reintroduce society, pull back out, reintroduce society, pull back out. As a judge, if a case came across your desk and it was a multiple time felon who's harmed the community, are you going to go with the standard that's been happening where they go for the lowest sentence and put them out on bail, like that dude who got put out on bail and then went back and killed his family? Or are you going to actually stick with the law and protect the community?
Thank you. I can't sit up here and tell you how I'm going to act or rule in every single case, but what I can tell you as a Chief Deputy District Attorney, I have sought justice for our community for the last 13 years. I always ask for what I believe is a fair and just sentence or outcome in the case without taking into account what the judges I come before are doing on a regular basis. I always ask for what I think is right, and I think following our laws and utilizing what we have in our criminal justice system is appropriate.
Like Hilary, I've seen, and as Mr. Friend stated, there is a lot of crime in the community. Gun crimes have gone way up over the last number of years. Safely owning a gun as a CCW holder, I think they are some of the best trained as far as understanding about guns, gun safety, and going forward. They're also the least likely to commit a crime. But when a felon is in possession of a firearm or another individual as a result of a domestic violence conviction comes back before the court with a gun charge, I think that the judge has to follow the law, whatever that law is. Obviously, they are going to look at their pretrial risk assessment form. They're going to listen to the prosecutor's side of the case. They're going to listen to a public defender or another criminal defense attorney, arguing the facts of the case. But you have to apply the law. And that minimum sentence on a felon in possession of a gun is 1 to 6. So while there's a little bit of discretion in that, I think you need to discuss it all or hear what the discussions are with all of the community partners and come up with a fair, firm, but equitable decision.
Thank you. One of the things that was brought up was bail, for example. So when if we're on the bench and we're assessing bail, we look at one, whether or not an individual is a danger to the community, and two, whether or not they will return to court. I think when you're on the bench and you look at those pretrial risk assessment sheets and you listen to the individuals who are either advocating for or against their release or for or against a bail being imposed, you are able to take into account what that assessment says. If there is an individual who was before you and they have several prior violent crimes as convictions, or they have several misdemeanors or several failures to appear, those are usually factors that are indicative of whether or not this is an individual who should be released back into society. And one of the things as a judge is that you have to trust your intuition and make the determination for whether or not you believe this is an individual that should be kept in custody or should be placed on some sort of monitoring or should be released. Like I believe someone said, I cannot tell you what my decision would be on the bench, but I do know that as someone who looks at those factors every single day, I would be able to make a fair and just decision to release them back into our society.
Thank you for that question. And Mr. Friends, I want to direct something strictly to you in response to that question. And that is, I 100% agree with you that CCW holders are the least likely group of the population to commit crimes. I have to tell you that I have seen cases of repeated felons that are still in possession of weapons, and there are arguments made before, and as a sitting judge, you can see what has been happening previously in a particular case. And I can see what the bail setting had been and how low it is at times when it could have been higher. And I can tell you, and I can in fact promise you, that when the facts of the case are taken into consideration, I will do everything I can to exercise the discretion that is given to me to make sure that the community remains safe, while, if appropriate, not taking away anyone's right to own or possess a firearm if it's done rightfully. And there are sometimes 19-year-olds that appear in court with a gun-related violation. And you know what is the best thing for them to do? Is to go to a CCW class, take a gun safety class, and understand the importance of what it is that you're holding in your hand and how it can affect the safety of the public. So I will exercise this court's discretion to remain within the guidelines that's provided when it comes to sentencing for those types of felons.
Okay, well, no, okay. So James Jones, Director of Veterans of Politics. This is for you, Jessica. This is just to kind of clarify a statement that you had made earlier, so I don't misunderstand your intentions on this. So judges have to follow the NRS statutes as currently written, whether they agree with them or not. And I already kind of asked what you guys would do to reach out on that. You said one of the reasons you were running for judge, though, is that you wanted to be, you consider yourself an advocate, and now you want to be an advocate from the bench. Can you please clarify that? Because that seems to me like you're okay with legislating from the bench.
That was a misrepresentation. So it's not about advocating from the bench, but it is understanding that the people that come before you may or may not be from the same or similar background as you, right? Like I again move through this life dealing with different people from different backgrounds who don't agree with me even being their attorney, but I still give them the quality representation regardless of how they feel about me. I think that if I am able to sit on the bench, it is more so in understanding that regardless of who they are, regardless of the case, regardless of, their background, that they deserve to be treated as people. So it's not necessarily like I'm going to be an advocate, but I would like for people to come in front of me and know that I will treat them with respect.
Okay, with that, first off, I just want to thank all four of you for running. Okay, being a judge, and this is kind of I'm going to get my soapbox just for a quick minute for the viewers and listeners. This is something that I have really grown into thanks to Steve Sanson for really getting me to start paying attention to judges years ago. Judges impact your life immediately. And unfortunately, I gave the statistics how poor the poor turnout for judicial races is, and it's very discouraging. So I hope the viewers and listeners were paying attention today, and those that will be on YouTube and see this interview process, especially this specific seat, because it is the People's Court. More than likely, if you get yourself in some stuff you shouldn't get into, you'll see it. You'll see a JP. And it's very important that that person is qualified, applies the laws fairly. So I just wanted to say that, and how much I really respect everybody for running for office. It's not easy. You're putting your life out there, and that's not a fun thing to do sometimes. So with that being said, I also want to leave us with thanking our sponsors. Joey Berkeley, Las Vegas, running for Las Vegas mayor. Carrie Maxey, who is running for family court. Department N, and then also her sign fell down. I apologize for that. Also, Monica Larson, who is running for Henderson City Council Ward 2. We really want to thank our sponsors, and also, again, thank you to the candidates. With that, that will conclude our endorsement interview for Justice of the Peace, Las Vegas, Department number 4. Thank you.